"You can't be an agnostic atheist" is a sentence I've heard recently. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, being an agnostic atheist. Hi, my name is Scarlett, and I am an atheist. An agnostic atheist, as I just said, and a skeptic, and I like to talk about things like God belief on this channel. So let's just get into it. What label do you prefer to give yourself in terms of your God belief? Some people just go with atheist. They can be agnostic or not. Some are anti-theists. There are even apatheists, people who are apathetic. I tend to call myself an agnostic atheist, but recently I was told that this was a ridiculous label, that I am closing myself off from knowledge, and that it made no sense. In a way, I hate discussions about labels. I do think how we want to identify ourselves is personal, and we have reasons for choosing one word over another. Of course, I mean that within the bounds of what labels are available and what the general understanding of what that name means. One discussion that particularly exhausts me is the agnostic versus atheist labels. I find it tedious to have discussions over whether or not the meanings assigned to them are valid, and in the course of the dialogue, you don't actually sort out what I consider important issues, like what a person believes and why. You just get hung up on a word that's being used to identify that. But I want to talk about this today because of this discussion I had, which was among educated atheists who, however, are not nearly as terminally online as I am, especially on this whole YouTubes here. So first, why do I assign myself this label? Well, story time. There was a time I probably would have just called myself an agnostic. I stopped believing in any form of Christianity sometime in middle school, but I held on to God belief for quite a while after. And to be honest, that belief bled away so quietly, I can't put on an age where I realized I didn't believe. So maybe I was an apatheist, somebody who's just indifferent to the existence of God and beliefs in God and all that. I had a lot of other things I was doing at the time, traveling, living abroad, getting a PhD, and settling into a job at a university. And I didn't perceive the threat of religion at all at the time. My family is still Catholic, and I still have lots of Protestant friends, but talk about religious belief with them was never a priority, and thankfully they did not feel the need to convert me or proselytize. Maybe they would mention going to church, or they would be praying for me, or things of that nature. I do have my deconversion story on here, so I won't repeat all of that. You can go look it up on my channel. But I will talk about the moment I realized the label atheist was the one that fit me. It was the early days of Facebook and early social media outrage. Someone posted about a group of atheists who were ruining it for everyone by wanting a solstice monument and a memorial for soldiers who died in the war. The Christians, you see, were already putting up a manger every December, so the atheists thought they would petition. And instead of granting their solstice poll, the town council decided no one could put up anything. And so the Christians could no longer put up their manger scene. Now the message was clear: we don't want to share this communal space with non-believers, so no one can do anything. Instead of seeing the story as I did, that the atheists had never had anything to ruin, didn't want to take away the Christian display, and were only asking to have access to the same space, a quote-unquote friend, taking a cue from that article and its blatant bias, was mad that atheists were harming poor Christians who were just minding their own business. We exchanged a few messages, and that person stopped responding to me, and oh well. We're kind of used to that on social media by now. That was back in the late aughts, and my first move after realizing that I identified with these atheists was to look for community. And I found it on an atheist blog and attached forum at about.com. I exchanged messages in the comments section with a Tracy H., who pointed me to the Atheist Experience, which was already running online. And some of you may already know that Tracy H. was Tracy Harris, a really exceptional mind and articulate speaker. She has an interesting podcast now. In any case, it was that blog space, plus its forum, along with watching the Atheist Experience, that really helped me shape how to express the opinions that I had and to sharpen my own thinking about what I believed and why. So I started thinking of myself as an agnostic atheist, which to me means I don't believe in a God, therefore atheism, but I can't be sure one doesn't exist, hence the agnostic, especially because so many people throughout time have claimed one does exist. So I just feel like, show me the evidence and I'll think about it. Voila, agnostic atheist. So here I am many years later with this self-labeling. Fast forward to a night out with some friends. Most of these people are atheists, and most of the time, we don't talk about religion. One of them is a retired medical doctor who self-identifies as an atheist. We'll call him Sam. And one of them is a philosophy professor who we will see does not specialize in epistemology, but who teaches lots of different systems of philosophy and also religious philosophy. We'll call her Kathy. Now, for some reason that night, atheism did come up, and Sam specifically talked about being an atheist, and I mentioned being an agnostic atheism. Sam exclaimed, "That's a contradiction. You can't be both. You have to choose." I tried to explain the difference between belief and knowledge, and he said he just couldn't understand that, and it was ridiculous to make the distinction, because how can you believe what you can't know, and don't you need to have knowledge to believe? I tried to make some analogies and explain my feeling that I can't know for sure there is no God, but I don't believe in one. I also pointed out there are religious people who say they aren't 100% sure there is a God, so they're agnostic theists. So, some people claim that they have the knowledge and so believe, and others say they're not sure and they believe or don't believe, this kind of thing. Somehow in all of this, he told me that by calling myself this name, I was cutting myself off from knowledge, because to be doubting meant that I can't hear evidence. Yeah, I don't get this part, because in his mind, if you're agnostic, like to be a doubter just means that you can't accept things. And it's like, I'm not quite sure that that's how that works. Like you're not fixed in a position, but okay. Ultimately, I think the issue is the supernatural, the fact that we don't have evidence, or I should say we don't have good evidence of the supernatural. And that's where these gods tend to reside. And I think that is what is the problem here. So more on that in a minute. To say that Sam mansplained to me is an understatement. After going around and around with him a little bit, he appealed to Kathy, who said she just doesn't know. She herself is a pure agnostic. She has to be, you see, for her students. So I said, fine. You're not here with your students, though, so do you believe in a God or do you not? She kept hemming and hawing. She's neutral. She's Switzerland. She's done this before. I've known her a long time. What she really likes as a philosophy teacher is to understand the philosopher's system and kind of inhabit that for the students and have them question her about it. And she likes to just remain very neutral. She has her preferences. Obviously, she thinks some things are more sound than others, but she doesn't like to tell you what they are. She really goes for the neutral stance for just everything. Every so often, she'll say she doesn't believe in God. We try to tell her, oh, sounds like you're an atheist, but she rejects that. Sometimes she sounds like a pantheist, like she really likes the idea that the universe is conscious, so, there's that. So, in the course of this discussion, she mentions that she sometimes has atheist students in her religious philosophy course, and she feels sorry for them because they have to disprove all of these other religions in order to remain atheists. I was slightly horrified by this thought, and I asked if the theist students had to disprove all the other religions. But no, you see, they have a religion they believe in, so that's enough. Like I said, epistemology is not her thing. I really find her approach to this depressing, and she's at an age right now where I don't think she will change her mind. If you confront her on this, she just says, oh, I don't know, this is the way we do it, blah, blah, blah. And it's, there's no convincing her. Anyway, Sam turned to me at this point and said, see, Kathy doesn't think your stance makes sense either. I didn't want to point out that she wasn't really practicing good epistemology. He also got out his phone at some point and looked up definitions of atheism and agnosticism, which I would contend were in line with what I was saying, but he didn't seem to understand that one was getting at knowledge, one was getting at belief, and a couple he took issues with because it was sort of like atheists have atheism. Some of the definitions weren't all that great, is what I'm saying, I guess. But I guess what we're down to is that atheism to this man really is a positive belief that no gods exist, while agnosticism is a state of pure doubting without differentiating belief from knowledge. So on the heels of this discussion, I had a few thoughts about atheism. One of the things that it really made me feel was how unusual it is to define yourself by what you are not or what you don't believe. Sam brought up all kinds of things in the physical world that we have knowledge of. So, you believe in them. We have evidence of the table we're at. You can touch it, see it, knock on it, set stuff on it. So assuming our perceptions are correct, and for the purposes of this discussion, we're not going out and imagining that they're not, we have knowledge of the table, so we believe in it. Or things like viruses or bacteria, we can see them through microscopes. We see the illnesses they produce. We have the tools to have knowledge of them, so we can believe in them. Emotions are labels we put on feeling states, and we can see evidence of those feeling states when we see people's reactions or how they act and things like that. But the problem is most gods that people believe in today don't occupy this physical realm. They're in the supernatural. Can we totally rule out that that doesn't exist? I mean, we have this evidence, in quotes, in the forms of people claiming to have experienced it. There's a commenter on one of my videos that has all kinds of stories about a supernatural realm and claims that he's been there and he's done this and he's done that. Now, to me, that's just a story, and I worry that that person is mentally ill. But, I personally do not see any evidence of a supernatural. I don't perceive it in any way, and I don't know of any instruments to perceive it. And I do mean perceive, not just see. We're not relying on sight. I don't have any evidence that this place exists, but a lot of people are saying it does. So this belief is so pervasive in society that when you come across somebody who talks about it, it's like you have to have a stance on it. I feel a cosmic energy. I think that person is an old soul. There are all kinds of things that people talk about, and it's like, I reject those beliefs. And this is what brings me to the second thing of how religion is all around us, with people constantly telling us about it, saying that they're blessed, saying that they're praying for you, preaching on college campuses and on street corners, going to special services during the week to listen to someone talk about God and pray to that God together, and asking, which one of those places do you go to? Even meeting to discuss a sentence from a holy book, and do you do that? Most people in the U.S. still have some affiliation, even if it just is the name Christian with a relationship to a God, even if they don't attend any service, and they want to know what your affiliation is. And more importantly, there are people in government enacting laws that show preferential treatment for theists. Prayers at meetings, prayers at games, taking away people's bodily autonomy by making abortion illegal, outlawing gender-affirming care, not allowing people to adopt children. And the story that started out my atheism, simply denying people the same activity allowed to Christians. These are people that don't want to share the public square. Atheists want to share the public square. Christians say no, and therefore no one can have it. And they get mad at the atheists for daring to just want to live their lives in the same authentic ways Christians have. They say no. If you want to live out loud and publicly, become a theist of some kind. But not an icky Muslim or Jew. I wouldn't care about adopting a label if it weren't for these people. What church do you go to? I don't. Where do you pray? I don't. What do you think we should do about abortion? We should keep it legal. If you think it's wrong, don't do it. What should we do about gender-affirming care? It should be available. If you think it's wrong, don't do it. And I wouldn't even care about whether or not my ability to have knowledge of that is stated in some way. But people say it's so obvious, and so I want to say, I'm not sure about that. Show me evidence. Again, that's the agnosticism. But this discussion I had with my friends Sam and Kathy shows that even atheists don't understand these distinctions and don't always accept them. And even when you explain how you want to self-identify, tell you can't do that. And I wish we could come to some clarity on this issue and not be having all of this discussion just about the labels. What to do? I don't know. Maybe you have some ideas. What do you think about this labeling discussion? What labels do you use? What do you think about them? Put it in the comments below. And while you're down there, you can like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. You're on YouTube, you know what to do. And if you like what I do, you can buy me a coffee. That link will also be in the description below. And I will see you next time for something completely different. Bye for now.